Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Bold and the Beautiful. Thomas targets Brooke. Is she in danger? Bold and the Beautiful sees Thomas Forrester, Matthew Atkinson, back in town and more determined than ever to keep his parents together. That means trouble for Brooke Logan, Catherine Kelly Lang. But the question is, how bad will it be? To be fair, the Logans are all conspiring against Taylor Hayes, Rebecca Budig. That includes Donna Logan, Jennifer Garice, Katie Logan, Heather Tom, and Eric Forrester, John McCook, who's an honorary Logan at this point. If you think about it, doesn't Taylor deserve someone in her corner fighting for her as much as Donna, Katie, and Eric are fighting for Brooke? If you think about it that way, then you see that there's a point to bringing Thomas back, especially with Steffi Forrester, Jacqueline McInnes Wood, gone, and especially since Ridge Forrester, Torsten Kay, continues to waffle in the middle between these two women, just ruining everybody's lives. We have found out more since Thomas came back home to LA about what's going on in his personal life. Honestly, it's no wonder his first stop was to see his mom, Taylor, in her office at the hospital. He needed some comfort, too. She and Thomas had a really nice little reunion moment. They caught up, and Taylor told Thomas that Brooke was interfering with her engagement to Ridge. But Thomas still doesn't realize the full extent of how much Ridge is part of the problem, because he's the biggest part. Taylor doesn't realize that either, at least not yet. Brooke knows, Ridge knows, and the Logans know. Thomas's next stop was to go over and see his dad at Forrester Creations. Thomas was stunned to see Brooke in Ridge's arms, and Thomas wasn't happy about it, which makes sense because, as far as he knows, his parents are happily engaged. Then he walks in on what looks like some cheating. Thomas directly asked his daddy Ridge Forrester if the wedding to Taylor is still on. Thomas told Ridge, "Don't break Taylor's heart again, because the whole family is counting on you." What's whack about that is that Ridge basically reassured Thomas that things are fine and that he's not going to mess up things. It's already happened. We found out more about why Thomas is back in LA, because he was telling his dad why he really needs the closure or togetherness of Ridge and Taylor getting married. Part of that is because Thomas's own engagement is off. He and Paris Buckingham, Diamond White, are done. Thomas said he and Paris broke up and that her family is trouble, all of them. He's not wrong, especially since her mom, Grace Buckingham, Cassandra Creech, pulled that horrible con on Liam Spencer, Scott Clifton, and Bill Spencer, Don Diamont. Plus, Thomas said he and Steffi watched Ridge hurt Taylor for years, which is absolutely true. They don't like that. They don't want it for their mom. So, Thomas was telling Ridge that the whole reason he's back is to make sure Brooke doesn't get her hooks in Ridge and make him hurt Taylor again. Thomas also said after the split from Paris, he just doesn't know what his life is now, what his purpose is. He tells Ridge that he's feeling untethered. He's got no relationship. He's not working on a fashion line on Bold and the Beautiful. And his son, Douglas Forrester, Henry Joseph Samry, is busy with his friends because he's at that age now. Unfortunately for Ridge, Thomas is hyper-focused on Taylor's happiness. Thomas told Ridge he'd better not trample on Taylor's heart again after she bounced back from the last crisis, which, as we all know, was the broken heart syndrome. Ridge is worried, of course, because Thomas is very intent on making sure Ridge and Taylor get married and Brooke doesn't come between them. After seeing Ridge in Brooke's clutches up at the office, Thomas went to confront Brooke. Again, from Thomas's angle, I do think what he is doing is justified because his parents are happily engaged. As far as he knows, Ridge did not contradict that, and he saw them in what looked like a cheating situation. So he went in there, and as Katie sat looking shocked, Thomas told Brooke, "Ridge is marrying Taylor, and Brooke better not try and come between them ever again." Katie was surprised. Brooke's jaw dropped, and then she was glaring. It definitely sounded like the guy we've seen from the past, Dark Thomas. Again, though, think about his perspective. Think about what he's seeing. Brooke is seeing this through the lens of she and Ridge are basically reunited already because of what happened there. But that's not the reality for Thomas. For Ridge, right now who's waffling, and definitely not for Taylor. The big question is, should Brooke be afraid of what her former stepson might do to keep Ridge with Taylor and keep their marriage on track to happen? Can Brooke trust that Ridge won't waffle back to Taylor and ignore what happened with them in Italy? I don't know if Brooke can trust him or not. I could see Thomas plotting and scheming to make sure Brooke doesn't split his parents up. Later, Ridge was telling Eric about Thomas pressing him to marry Taylor. Eric said, "Don't let Thomas tell you what to do." Then it was huge irony because Eric was telling Ridge, "Don't let Thomas tell you what to do. Let me tell you what to do." Ridge realized that and told his dad, "It's the same thing you're doing." But Eric thinks it's okay when he does it because Eric thinks he knows what's best for Ridge. Now that Thomas is out here looking for a purpose, I think he's going to find it, defending his mom from Brooke, trying to take her man. But there is a red flag about Thomas's behavior that's already sketchy from the moment he returned to LA. When Taylor told Lee Finnegan, Naomi Matsuda, that Thomas is back and doing great now. They touched on his past issues, and Taylor said she would hate for Thomas to have a setback. But if he does, Taylor will be there for him. So, B&B might have been hinting and warning us that Thomas may lose the plot and go nuts if he finds out Ridge did indeed tell Brooke that he would dump Taylor and get back with her. I can absolutely see Thomas going after Brooke to make sure she's not a threat to Taylor's happiness with Ridge. Of course, I'm not suggesting Thomas will physically harm Brooke. That's not his pattern of behavior, like physically hurting her. Never say never, but it's not been his pattern of behavior. I think it's more likely Thomas does something to make Brooke look bad to Ridge. It wouldn't be the first time on Bold and the Beautiful. Years ago, he let Ridge think he and Brooke slept together to discredit her. More recently, Thomas, of course, framed Brooke for that CPS call that Thomas faked using Douglas Voice app. We all know Thomas can be ruthless, vindictive, and dark. With Paris out of his life and Hope, Logan, Annika, Noel busy with 2 other guys, Thomas has got lots of energy to focus on making sure Brooke won't get in the way. Let's be clear when it comes to Thomas. Yes, Brooke should be very worried. Not just because Thomas might target her directly, like he did in the past with the CPS call, but Brooke should also worry that Thomas could influence Ridge and push him to stick with Taylor. I'm sure Brooke realizes that this is serious, but I don't know if she understands how serious it is for him. I can also picture Thomas conspiring with Steffi to protect their mom, especially after the whole heart syndrome crisis. Steffi is going to be furious when she finds out Ridge promised Brooke a future after he fished her out of the water. Hot on the heels of Ridge promising Steffi he'd never break Taylor's heart. The big question is, what could Thomas do to get Brooke away from Ridge? What was interesting was when Thomas confronted Ridge, he didn't have the nerve to tell his son he planned to dump Taylor. So honestly, I think Thomas's best case is just to intensify the pressure on Ridge and pile up that guilt. But all of that reminds me of that old Bonnie Raitt song, "I can't make you love me." That line, "I can't make you love me if you don't." If Ridge doesn't love Taylor the way he loves Brooke, nobody, not even Thomas, can make it happen. But I bet he's going to try. The halls of Forrester Creations have never been strangers to whispers, tension, and long-brewing vendettas. Yet lately, the air has grown sharper, the stakes heavier, and all eyes have landed once again on Thomas Forrester. Once hailed as a talented designer, Thomas has often found himself wrestling with shadows of obsession, manipulation, and a desperate desire for acceptance. And now, with his attention seemingly narrowing on Brooke Logan, questions ripple through Los Angeles. Is Brooke in danger? For years, Brooke has been the thorn in Thomas's side. To her, he has been unstable, unreliable, and a threat to her daughter Hope. Brooke never once allowed Thomas to escape the shadow of his past schemes, always reminding Ridge and others that he could not be trusted. And Thomas, who craves respect and redemption, has grown increasingly tired of her watchful eyes and condemning voice. Their rivalry isn't new, but it feels more dangerous now, like sparks tossed near an open flame. At Forrester headquarters, The tension is almost palpable. Brooke struts in with her usual confidence, a silk blouse that seems to shimmer beneath the fluorescent lights, as if daring anyone to challenge her authority. She's a woman used to having her way, used to being the center of Ridge's attention, and she knows that Thomas, no matter how much he protests, is still capable of manipulation. Her warnings about him have become louder, sterner, and more persistent, and Thomas has noticed. Behind the sketches and fabric swatches, his jaw tightens every time Brooke's name leaves someone's lips. He tells himself he has changed, that he has become a better man, but Brooke refuses to acknowledge it. To her, he will always be the man who used his son Douglas to try to trap hope, the man who lied and twisted the truth, the man who danced too close to madness. Brooke's judgment slices deeper than she realizes, reopening old wounds Thomas thought had healed. Yet lately, his eyes linger on her not just with resentment, but with calculation. He studies her movements, her alliances, and her influence over Ridge. Because Brooke's greatest weapon is not simply her disapproval. It's the sway she holds over Thomas's father. And for Thomas, that is intolerable. Ridge has always been the North Star of his life, and Brooke has a way of pulling him in directions Thomas despises. If Ridge is under Brooke's spell, then Thomas's designs, his reputation, his very future, feel at risk. The question is, what lengths will Thomas go to silence her? Some at Forrester whisper that Thomas's newfound calm is just a mask. Yes, he has been trying to prove himself. Yes, his work has dazzled the fashion world again. Yes, he has appeared more stable. But the flashes in his eyes when Brooke enters a room tell a different story. They are the glimmers of a man who feels cornered. And when a Forrester feels cornered, especially Thomas, the results are unpredictable. Hope, ever the optimist, insists Thomas has changed. She has seen his dedication, his vulnerability, and his attempts to be a good father. But even she has started to notice the tension between him and her mother. The barbed words, the icy stares, the way Thomas's hands curl into fists beneath the table whenever Brooke dismisses him. Hope worries that her mother's relentless mistrust might push Thomas over the edge again. Yet Brooke, unwavering, declares that her instincts have never been wrong about him. And so, the stage is set. Brooke versus Thomas, two forces colliding with Ridge in the middle like a rope in a tug-of-war. The danger doesn't have to be physical, though fans of the bold and the beautiful know that obsession has often taken darker turns. Sometimes danger is psychological, the steady dismantling of one's reputation or influence. Thomas has always excelled at strategy when he puts his mind to it. Could he target Brooke's marriage? Could he expose one of her secrets, real or fabricated, to shake her standing with Ridge? Or worse, could he orchestrate a scandal so devastating that Brooke finally loses everything she's fought to keep? Imagine the possibilities. Brooke, blindsided, finds her credibility questioned after someone leaks damaging information. She points to Thomas, but there's no evidence, only her intuition. Ridge grows weary of her accusations, defending his son while Brooke pleads with him to see the truth. The family fractures. Hope is caught between loyalty to her mother and her complicated trust in Thomas. And through it all, Thomas watches from the shadows, a faint smile tugging at his lips, convinced he's finally outmaneuvered the woman who never believed in him. But the danger could also be more intimate, more insidious. Thomas has a talent for words, for bending situations until people begin to doubt themselves. What if he begins to gaslight Brooke? What if he plants subtle seeds that make Ridge wonder whether Brooke is overreacting, paranoid, or even unstable? Suddenly, Brooke's greatest weapon, her voice, becomes her downfall. Her cries of warning echo unheard, leaving her isolated. And then there's the darker possibility, the one that makes viewers hold their breath. Thomas has a history of obsession, of allowing his emotions to drive him into reckless actions. Could his resentment boil over into something physical? Could a confrontation escalate until Brooke truly is in danger? Soap operas thrive on drama, And nothing raises the stakes quite like a shocking twist where words turn into actions no one saw coming. Ridge, as always, will be at the center of the storm. Torn between the woman he loves and the son he wants to believe in, his loyalty will be tested like never before. Will he trust Brooke's instincts or Thomas's assurances? Will he stand by his wife, or will he once again fall victim to the hope that his son has truly reformed? Ridge's decision could tip the scales, either saving Brooke or leaving her vulnerable.